Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Health Counseling Podcast. So today we have myself, Corrie, and Myckayla. Today we'll be discussing anger and anxiety. Before we get going, this content is not meant to be advice or even suggest best practices. So the first question we're going to start with, how do I stop feeling angry and or anxious?
I hear this one so much from clients, honestly, from clients and from people in my personal life who know that I'm a therapist. And the short answer is you don't. You don't ever stop feeling angry or anxious. They are emotions that are a part of the human experience and they're supposed to be there. They show us things and they show for a reason, right? Like anger is supposed to be a defense mechanism. If something is threatening you or about to harm you, it's supposed to be there to kind of signal to your body like, hey, pay attention to this. Same thing with anxiety. I said this to somebody the other day. It's like if we had no anxiety, we would just walk out into the middle of traffic and be like, yep, I'm good. Nothing's going to happen. That little bit of fear and that worry about like, oh, what if is supposed to be there. It's like a protective thing. So that's the short answer to you don't stop feeling it. Like it has to be there.
And if you want to get into the longer answer, I love to say to people, the feeling is valid, the reaction is optional. So I honestly really love this question when people ask me, because growing up, I was the kid with way too much emotional energy. I was the deep feeling kiddo that was afraid of everything and had a short fuse. So people always kind of say how do I stop feeling this way? And as Myckayla said, you don't stop. But with anxiety and anger, you can lengthen the fuse of both of those feelings. So there's a healthy level of anger and there's a healthy level of anxiety. Yeah. But with anger, we don't want to let that fuse get lit and then cause a lot of other issues in our life. Yeah. Can confirm if you break your cell phone out of anger, it's not a good day after that. It doesn't make you feel any better. So helping people kind of understand what is the reasonable expectation for this feeling? What is the reasonable response for this feeling? So if someone makes you mad, you're allowed to say that really upset me. I'm not happy about this, and walk it off to take a time out until that fuse is no longer lit.
Yeah.
Or when you're anxious, to be able to say okay, I'm really stressed out. What can I do differently so I don't spiral out of this feeling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. It's very much like those emotions are going to show up. It's how do we work with them? Because we can't just erase them. That just kind of erases a part of what it means to be human. They need to be there. Anger, anxiety, all of the difficult emotions, they need to be there.
Yeah, and anger and anxiety are like energy in your body, right?
Yeah.
If you took away all anger, all anxiety, you would just be left with numb, flat affect, because the same energy that creates anger and anxiety also creates happy and excited and joy. Your body needs energy. You just have to learn how to kind of regulate it and learn to hit the brakes when your brain wants to hit the gas.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
We've all got a brake pedal. Some are just not wired as well as others.
On that fuse analogy too, it's when that fuse gets lit, we just want to make sure that the whole bomb doesn't detonate. The fuse can be lit, we just don't want to blow up our lives, right? The anger and anxiety piece.
Yes, yeah, we don't want the fuse to be from here to here and go from 0 to broken phone in about 10 seconds. We want here, okay, this is really upsetting me. I got to walk this off. I got to take a deep breath, because it also helps us from doing other regrettable things. Yeah. And anxiety too, when you learn to regulate it, you don't miss out on stuff. We don't want you to stop feeling any anxiety. So like Myckayla said, let's not walk into traffic. But when I was a kid, I totally avoided anxiety. So I missed out on a lot of different things. Yeah. I didn't go to sleepovers. I didn't interact with certain things and people. Mm-hmm. So if I had learned to regulate as opposed to just avoid it, I would have been able to kind of engage in more ways.
Oh, yeah. The avoidance is such a big thing, specifically with these two emotions, too, because people are like, anger is such a bad thing. I shouldn't feel angry. I shouldn't feel anxious. I'm going to avoid situations that make that happen for me. It's well, that doesn't allow you to learn how to regulate those things and how to cope with those things. It just makes it more and more difficult for you to work with anger and anxiety when they inevitably show up. There's no way to avoid it.
For sure. Yeah. It keeps you from living a typical life and engaging and having experiences in relationships. Anger can also take away relationships if you leave that completely unchecked. It will cost you relationships.
100%. Or phones, apparently.
Yes. But anxiety will also cost you relationships that you're not going to put yourself out there. You're not going to take opportunities. I've had lots of people come to me and say like, oh, I just like don't socialize. I don't leave my house. And then they're upset that they're lonely and isolated. Well, it's trying to stop that feeling of anxious versus cope with it. You're not going to leave the house. You're not going to meet new people.
Yeah. That was like, hearing you describe that, that was 100% me in university. Like, I was so focused on school and very socially anxious, where it was like, I'm not going to interact with other students. Like, I'm just focusing on my lecture, my lab, my whatever I need to do, and I'm going. And I did miss out on what it meant to have that university experience. Not that I ever want to go back to do that. But I can reflect on it now and be like, yeah, I really did let anxiety kind of creep in a lot and take some of that experience away from me. So learn from us. Don't break your phone. Still socialize.
All right. So our next question.
Yeah. Why is anger so hard to deal with?
So personally, and what I've seen with other people, anger is so hard to deal with because, kind of back to that brake and gas analogy, there's a lot of people who just didn't grow up with a brake pedal. Mm-hmm. So if you grew up in a family or you were a naturally like hothead, high-tempered, big feelings kid, if you've never hit the brake pedal, it is so unbelievably hard to find it. And your brain is convinced that you don't have one. Mm-hmm. So the amount of times I've met people who have said like, oh, I'm just angry. That's just who I am. Guys, I got to tell you, anger is not a personality trait.
No.
It's not a personality characteristic. No. It is not made up in your DNA. It is your nervous system. Yeah. And you've just only hit the gas your entire life. Mm-hmm. So until you figure out, oh my God, A, I have a brake pedal. Yeah. And B, what do I need to actually push it? You will keep hitting the gas. So it is really hard to stop because it's instantaneous. Mm-hmm. And depending on who it is, kind of like your firework bomb analogy, some people are like sparklers. Other people are like the 4th of July fireworks. Yeah. So depending on how much gunpowder you're working with, it gets a lot harder to pour water on the 4th of July fireworks than put out a sparkler.
I think too, on the flip side of that is some people only see the gas pedal, and some people grow up where anger is not allowed in the space. It's like, well, what do you have to be angry for? Let's be this like happy-go-lucky family. There's no issues. There's no problems. We don't yell. We don't fight. That's not reality. When that is reality. Like, every single relationship is going to have conflict. Anger is, again, like I said, part of the human experience. But some of us grow up in households where you don't get to see anger unfold or how to cope with it. So you just believe that it's just like this horrible, bad emotion and you need to do all you can to avoid it. And then you never actually get to release any of that tension that builds up. And then we get to areas like resentment, relationship issues. And when we hold in emotions, hold in whatever's happening, our bodies will start to tell us, right? People get migraines, stress headaches, tension in the shoulders, sore jaws, like all these different things where you're not releasing it emotionally or verbally. You're just holding on to it physically, and it's going to make its way out eventually. Sorry, hate to break it to you.
Yeah, if you do not deal with the skeletons in the closet, I promise you they fall out one way or another, whether it is through the door or a crack in the wall. Yeah. And I also think anger is really hard because anger is often tied to something else, kind of like Myckayla had said, like that defense response. So anger is what we call a secondary emotion, and we all have what's called secondary emotions and then primary emotions. So secondary emotions are like the defensive, I'm going to push you away, I'm going to keep you at arm's length feelings, where primary emotions are like those vulnerable feelings that most people don't love to sit with. There's the odd person I've met who loves to be vulnerable, but most of us have to work at it. So anger is kind of the shield to feeling upset and scared and disappointed and hurt. So it takes a lot more safety and ability to kind of sit with your own stuff to then be like, hey, I'm actually not mad that my spouse ghosted me last week. I'm really disappointed because I've told them 10 times how important my birthday is, and here we are one more year that they stayed late and went for a drink with the boys versus like coming home to like have a quiet evening like I asked. So you just yell at them instead because it keeps that person who hurt you at arm's length, because you don't want them this close. They already hurt your feelings. You're gonna push them away. You don't want to give them any second chance to cause any
risk that hurt again, right?
Yeah, you don't want to risk any more injury with the people who make you mad.
Yeah. I think that's a big one too. Like thinking of some of the kids in my life, the kids that I work with, frustration and embarrassment are big precursors to anger as well.
For sure.
Right? So a little kid who might be getting overwhelmed with math problems that just math might not be their strong suit. It definitely isn't mine. And that embarrassment of like, should know the answer, don't know the answer, and then the anger kind of comes out because we don't know how to cope with the embarrassment. So those are just a couple examples of those primary emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. About. And even to circle back to like anxiety being hard, that embarrassment, right? There's so many people who anxiety can be really hard to deal with because people don't want to admit what they're feeling anxious about.
Yeah.
There's so many people who have learned, hey, I know I'm spinning out. I know this doesn't make any sense. I know this is irrational. Like one of my anxieties growing up was like mascots. Freaked me out.
Okay.
Anytime someone was like, go stand with so-and-so to get a picture, I was like, absolutely not.
Buzz from Sorry to Sting.
Couldn't. Like Buzz from Sorry to Sting. No offense, Buzz, but like actually not. Like, no, thank you. So then I was always really embarrassed because people would be like, what do you mean you don't want to get a picture? Like everyone's getting a picture. So then I would get really quiet and embarrassed. And it's something I didn't cope with because I'm like, I don't know how to tell people. Like, I don't know who's in that costume. And that like irrationally freaks me out. Everyone else is so excited about it. So I was like the odd kid out. So then it was really hard to like talk about and find ways to cope with it.
Yeah, because it makes you like others, right? It makes
Yes.
you feel that other, yeah. Those are tough emotions for sure to deal with, the anger and the anxiety. And it's, again, they're hard to deal with because they're protective, because they show up in a way to help protect you and keep you from getting hurt or worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so our last question is, will I always feel this angry or anxious?
So this is a big thing that I work with a lot of my clients actually, is how to manage distress tolerance. And you hear that in so many different like modalities with therapy, big one being like DBT. I primarily use kind of like a nervous system approach to this, where you have what is called in the polyvagal theory, like your vagal brake. So it's the point in which you have built up so much tension and then your body goes, okay, that's enough. We have to like do something different. This is not working. And then you drop down into that anxious, angry place where we call it like the sympathetic state. When we think about how, like, will I always feel this way? Will I always be this anxious? The idea of strengthening the vagal brake is what comes to mind for me. So with this theory, you want to build up enough tolerance to stress tolerance to be able to cope with more anxiety, more anger, and find healthier ways to deal with it. So for example, if a 5-year-old stubs their toe and freaks out, okay, that is their vagal brake. That's their limit. They cannot go beyond that, but you can sit and help a kid work through big emotions so that maybe not when they're 5, but when they're 6 or 7, stubbing their toe doesn't send them into that rage anymore. And it's the same thing through adulthood. There are things that might trigger you, might be really, really upsetting to you, but through therapy, through building resources, through talking about it, you can increase your ability to like manage the stress, manage the distress that's happening, and stop your body from going into that huge switch to like anger, seeing red, the heart racing, the sweating, all of those different pieces. That's just like the theory that I like to use in my work with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And the short answer is depends what you do on whether or not you feel this way. So kind of like I said earlier, like the feeling is valid, the reaction is optional, but you have to actually do something different with that feeling for it to change. If you're someone who has that really short fuse and you've decided like, this is who I am, I'm not changing this, I'm not learning from this, I'm not reflecting on it, there's a good chance that you're not going to stop feeling that way. Yeah. It will stay exactly the same.
Like, and as intense as you're feeling it,
as intense.
Right? Yeah.
If you slam the gas pedal as hard as you can and you don't even think about it and you have no plan on thinking about it, you will not stop feeling that way, because you're like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
Where if you actually start to do something different, you will stop feeling that way. It might never be like a 180. You might never be the calmest, most relaxed, water off a duck's back kind of person, but you can absolutely lengthen that fuse by doing something different.
Yeah.
So people kind of have to go, okay, why is this not working for me anymore? And kind of like Myckayla said, like, is it distress tolerance? Is it changing that break? And one thing a lot of people say to me is, well, it happens too fast. I can't change it.
Yeah.
Tough love moment. You got to start at hindsight being 20/20.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that fuse to like lengthen overnight. You're not going to notice it the first one time, 50 times, 100 times. I was very much someone who had to look back and go, ooh, not my proudest moment. What do I want to do differently next time? How do I make this feel less personal? How do I cope with this differently?
Yeah.
Where do I want something to go differently? So one for me was I get really upset when people like move my stuff.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
yeah,
Like growing up with siblings, I don't touch my stuff.
100%. My sisters would take my stuff, lose it, break it. So when people take my things, I used to have a hairpin trigger response to that. Because typically if it was moved, it was gone, it was broken, or it was given away.
Yeah.
But I had to then, hindsight being 20/20 in my current home, say, okay, listen, the people you live with now, the person you live with now is not stealing your stuff.
Yeah.
They're not trying to mess with your stuff. They're like cleaning up and they're moving it to somewhere safe, or they accidentally mixed up like their AirPods and your AirPods. So I had to start reflecting after the fact to finally get my brain to catch up and be like, okay, you're not in the same environment anymore. Stop hitting the gas pedal the same. We're not in the same battle anymore with siblings. You cannot fight with your spouse the same way you fight with your siblings.
Your siblings have to love you. Your spouse doesn't. Actually, family.
It's true.
Your siblings actually don't even have to love you.
My sisters can't divorce me. So
A big piece though with what you're saying there in that reflection is in doing that hindsight look and looking in that rearview mirror and going like, ooh, okay, I didn't like the debris I'm leaving behind me.
it's true.
Is you can start to recognize what those triggers are and start to prepare yourself for, okay, I know that going into a big trigger for me with anger is like clutter. Clutter in general, it just like really elevates my nervous system. I just cannot deal with it. So if I know I'm going into a space where I don't have control over what the clutter does or doesn't look like, I have to prepare myself and be like, okay, I had to take some deep breaths, make sure I got some nice cold water with me. I know I'm coming into the space that I might feel more tense, feel angrier, and I need to just be aware of that. And in that reflection, you can start to recognize those triggers and prepare yourself ahead of time. And if you don't need to regulate yourself in those moments, great. But it's better to be prepared than not prepared.
And a big part of that is like taking responsibility for it.
Yeah.
I've met so many people with either anger or anxiety that not consciously, not intentionally, they think this is the way it is. So they don't take responsibility for it. It's just like, oh, I'm hardwired this way. There's nothing I can do about it. But when you actually take responsibility for your feelings is when you start to find those ways you can prep, those ways you can reflect. And sometimes it's super practical. Like me and my spouse, AirPods, they look the exact same. And one of the issues was he kept taking mine, but mine are paired to my phone, so his don't work with mine. So I'd go find mine. I bought AirPod cases.
There you go.
Now they're different colors. Now they look different.
Yeah.
Now we don't have to argue about this anymore. But I had to take responsibility of, hey, he's not the one that's bothered this much by this. He was not the one who needed to find a solution for this. He was just accidentally mixing up two identical things. So I was the one that was kind of
Dare you?
the audacity. The audacity. So I took responsibility and said, hey, man, this is something that's driving me insane.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get cases and make them look different so this stops happening to me.
Yeah. And a big piece with that, too, is talking to the people in your life who you feel safe sharing these things with, right? Because maybe the color cases won't come to you, but maybe if you're sharing it with him, he'll have that solution, or whoever else in your life would be able to like offer something where you're like, oh, that's amazing. That's a great idea. Let's do that.
It's true.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions that you would like to submit to the Health Counseling Show, feel free to send it on our website or DM us on Instagram. Also, if you are looking for a therapist, again, looking at our website is always an option, or check out Psychology Today. Until next time, take care.